All right, we are ready. We are back in session. It is 6:01. Let's go ahead and start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. And as Dr. Anderson alluded to, we'll have our group here lead us in that pledge.
Okay. And as we prepare to start our Pledge of Allegiance, we're going to turn it over to one of the most amazing staff members who has her orchestra students here today. She's going to share who she is, where she's from, and then we're going to go ahead and start with our pledge.
Hello, I am Miss Booz, and I am the orchestra director of the Topeka West High School Orchestras. This is my audition group, my premier orchestra.
And with that, we'll start with the pledge. Having a group of students all at one time say the pledge. It's been a long time since we've had this many students here at one time to do the pledge. Excellent job. As we prepare to turn it back over, I'm going to turn it over to our president so that we can continue with another selection.
All right. So are you saying we'll have another
Ms. Booz,
song?
do we
Is that
have
right?
another selection? We have one more
Great.
selection, and we do want to tell the public that we are doing this evening in part because it's School Board Recognition Month, and what better way to recognize them to have them come into a musical tribute. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn it back on over. If we could just very quickly to share what year you are.
I'm a senior and I've been playing for like 7 years now.
I'm a senior and I've been playing since 5th grade.
I'm a junior and I've been playing since the 4th grade.
And what's
I'm a sophomore and I've been playing for 7 years.
I'm a senior and I've been playing for 8 years.
I'm a senior. I've been playing since 5th grade. I'm a junior and I've been playing for 8 years.
I'm a junior and I've been playing since 5th grade.
I'm a sophomore and I've been playing since 4th grade. I'm a sophomore and I've been playing since 5th grade.
I'm a sophomore and I've been playing since 6th grade.
did that because it takes a good board to invest in that kind of way and so early. And so again, we applaud you. Board members, we normally take a photo. Would you mind just coming right behind them? That might be the best way to do that. And our director will kind of guide them on how to get this photo in.
I've been here since the beginning.
All right, as our board members take their seat, we're preparing to transition. As she prepares to guide her young people out, the one person that I missed over with asking how long they've been doing this was our director. So I'm going to turn it over to her.
My name is Ms. Booz. I've been in the district for 7 years. I started teaching here and I've just kind of continued doing it. I really enjoy it. KU. Yeah. Could I do one more? We have on February 6th, our West Area Strings Festival, and it will have our 5th graders, our middle schoolers, and our high schoolers that filter into Topeka West at Topeka West for a concert. And you'll kind of get to see the whole generational thing. So it is at 7 o'clock in the gym over at Topeka West. So we'd love if you guys would like to join us.
All right, for those that are tuning in online, February 6th at 7 o'clock, be at Topeka West to see more. Again, congratulations to our school board members and thank you to our young people.
Thank you again to those from Topeka West and to Ms. Booz for being here and celebrating and recognizing School Board Month. Our staff, along with Ms. Booz, all of our staff are so important to us. And I do want to take just a quick moment to recognize someone who we lost here at Topeka Public Schools. And it is Mr. Glenn Graham, who is over at Jardine, who we unexpectedly and unfortunately did lose, and want to take a moment to have him in our thoughts, in our prayers, as well as his family and those who he touched at Jardine. So if we could take a moment of silence in memory of Mr. Glenn Graham. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is board officer nominations and elections. So we'll go one by one. So on 4.1, nominations are open for president of the board. Is there a nomination? Ms. Schmidt,
Mr. President, I would like to nominate Ms. Sue Boley for president of the board.
thank you very much. That is a nomination for Ms. Suboli. Is there a second? Okay, there's Sue, second here with Ms. Stewart Campbell. Any discussion? Any other nominations for school board president? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and go to a vote. Ms. Lister,
Want to vote by hand? Thank you. All votes are in and the motion carries unanimously.
all right. Congratulations, Madam President. That I'll go ahead and let you take over the next part of our meetings.
So our next order of business will be the nomination open for vice president of our board. Ms. Schmidt,
Ms. President, I would like to nominate Ms. Melanie Stewart Campbell for board vice president.
do I have a second for that motion? I have Dr. Bonebreak. Anybody else up for nomination? Suggestions? Ms. Lister, can we have that up for vote, please? Campbell. Agenda, so we need a motion for the adoption of the agenda.
Okay, Madam President, okay, I move the board approve the agenda as.
Do I have a second on that motion? Mr. Keith Tatum, seconds. Can we open the vote? Thank you, Mr. Agenda. So this is my favorite part of the agenda, the school highlights. Dr. Anderson, please share with us all the wonderful things happening in our district.
Happy to do so. Absolutely. Hey, we're adding an award on here and we already put the certificate up. Take the certificate down for a minute because you'll miss the story. We'd like for Ms. Ramberg and her entire human resource team, can you please come front and center so everyone out there can see who we're talking about. Fortunately, we have these walk around mics so that we can go and they can all introduce themselves. So yesterday, this is actually an added award. It's called the Life Saving Award. Life Saving Award is exactly what it's intended to say. And thank you, Dr. Gray, for coming up to grab those certificates. As the team comes up, this is Mr. Robbins' operational department. Do we have the camera where everyone can see them out there in the cyber world. Great. First, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves and then share with you why they are with us today.
I'm Debbie Ramberg. I'm the General Director of Human Resources.
I'm Jenny Meskey. I am the Human Resources Personnel Records Coordinator. I'm Jenny Nicholson, and I am the Human Resource Assistant.
I'm Allie Villegas, and I'm the HR Secretary. I am Brandy Juarez, and I'm Personal Records Assistant.
I'm Geneva Coker, Assistant to Deborah Ring.
Thank you. And who's not standing with us right now is Dr. Burl New, which leads into the Life Saving Award. Yesterday, we had a health matter, and without disclosing a great deal of detail, it was one in which a staff member, Dr. New, had a health matter in which she needed to be revived. In a moment's notice, one of our team members, there are two Jennies or Jens in the department. And so the Jen closest to that office heard something unusual. Instead of continuing with her work, she got up, ran into the office, and saw that Dr. New needed assistance and screamed that Dr. New needed assistance. And let me ask, who is trained in CPR in this space? Can you raise your hand? Pretty much the entire department. Either they were trained before this and volunteered with the fire department in one case, or they became trained in October through our amazing staff development department. And so because of that October training, all of them were quite calm, and within seconds, I began to provide support to Dr. New in a variety of ways. In particular, one of our staff members began doing chest compressions on Dr. New, which revived her. And between that and the health department being called, the ambulance being called, following the vehicle to the hospital, calling her family, all of these things. And in fact, there's some members that are online who are not here right now. So we'll have to introduce who they are. And so we'll do that momentarily. But I just have to say, I don't know that many people out there would be able within a matter of 30 to 60 seconds, immediately know what to do, get up and act, and at the same time, ensure that there was such calm presence. All of these women work under Ms. Ramberg. So Ms. Ramberg's calm spirit and everyone that works with her demonstrated such excellence in literally saving a life. For those that are hearing this for the first time, Dr. New is at home. She is resting under the careful eye of her family. She is doing well. But if it were not for these incredible women, the story would be very different today. Having said that, I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Ramberg to make sure that those that are online share who they are and what they do. All of these people played a part in this. And then any final comments from any of our staff members. Ms.
So we also have Nancy McCarter. She is our subservices manager, and her assistant Brandy Grego is there. We also have Jane Roberts. She's our classified personnel manager, as well as Rebecca Dortch, who is our certified hiring specialist. And I just have to say that I was so impressed with how everyone stepped up. There were a lot of things that needed to happen to assist Dr. New, and everyone played a very vital role in making sure that she is still with us today and able to return to work on Monday. I have a long list for her.
The other person that is online with us now, we are particularly highlighting these individuals who don't come to work thinking that they're going to be reviving someone and giving chest compressions. We have another new member of the team. Previously it was Miss Botter, and Miss Denman has been with us all but a couple of months and had this level of excitement in the building. I remember looking up and saying, "Where's Miss Denman?" And she was working on Dr. New right in front of me as well. Miss Denman, can you wave on the screen? She is our new nurse coordinator, and under her careful guidance as well, she knew where the machinery would be, the AED would be to use. She has since ordered additional ones. She was skillful in helping with the professional development that ensured all of these folks, many of these folks are trained. So if you are listening to this and you are not trained in CPR, we want to encourage you to attend training, and we as a staff will be offering it again in April for those staff members that want to participate. We do have a couple of other items that we'd like to make sure to give this entire staff. Dr. Gray. It is our honor for heroic actions in saving the life of a fellow staff member at the Burnett Administrative Center. Let's give them. With the fire department is Jennifer, and it's Meskey, so I say it right. Jennifer Meskey. She's the one that jumped out of her chair, ran down, and she gave those while Dr. New was sitting in a chair. It's pretty remarkable. Again, let's give her an applause as well for stepping up along with the entire team. Yes, we're gonna HR team, we have you in the picture right behind where they are. So you just keep your head up where you are. And if your camera's off and you're part of the HR team, if you turn it on, they'll get a chance to see. Mr. Robbins, as they're preparing to take their seat, was there any final comment? I see Claire Perry, our newest member to the Human Resource team, in the audience, I think as a cheerleader for the team. She's a proud mom being here and support of the team as she's. I mean, it really was amazing that all of this happened and no one else in the building knew what was occurring because it was just that seamless and like a well-oiled machine. Mr. Robbins, any final comment before we go to our next highlight?
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. I just want to say that we should not be the least bit surprised at the heroic actions of these young ladies. They really put team in the term teamwork. They have spent years being very supportive of one another and doing anything and everything they can to make sure that the HR function goes along smoothly. And that doesn't happen without everyone having every other person's back. So for them to jump into action the way they did to support a struggling team member certainly is no surprise, but it is really amazing what they did and what resulted as a result of that. And that is a person that we all love very dearly, who is still with us today, recovering nicely. And none of that would have happened without the efforts and support of this entire human resource team. So I couldn't be proud of these ladies I am this evening.
And as we transition in that space, you know, the idea that Miss Perry's new and is here, and Miss Vaughn, who now works in Pod A, that Miss was the benefits person before Miss Perry. Neither of them were in the immediate space, but heard of it either after or during, and they are also here. It just speaks to the level of family we have supporting one another. And again, thank you. Right, with that highlight and adding that highlight, we are going to move right into School Board Recognition Month. Unless, Madam President, was there a question or comment you wanted to make before I transition directly into that?
we just really want to thank them for their heroism and saving somebody that is very special to Topeka Public Schools. And as I was thanking you up close, you were saying how special she was to you. And that it was not, it was your honor to be there to help her. So we are just so lucky that everybody was trained and ready to go and do what they needed to do. So thank you all.
You didn't have anything on tip of your tongue, did you? Okay. Well said. All right. All right. With that, as we move into school board recognition month, we've already started with music. You have some goodies at your table. We started this last board meeting and we're continuing. So we have our proclamation for School Board Recognition Month, which I will prepare to read the proclamation. And with that, we will be continuing to celebrate our school board members. We understand 2 of you were at Lowman Hill or at some school today, and 1 of you was at 2 or 3 schools at Data Consults. And yesterday at Bishop, I saw Mr. Munoz and Ms. Schmidt joined at the Living the Dream, taking pictures with her East Topeka family at Highland Park, where she lives. And Dr. Bonebrake, we understand from Mr. Edwards, you were giving him a hard time with Ms. Boley up at the legislative. And Dr. Schumacher, you were serving food, I understand, last Saturday during the MLK period. And Mr. Taylor, you're kind of all over, one with visiting at Lowman Hill, but also with efforts that you've been also doing even beyond that in the labor piece and with college prep. We just thank all of you. Ms. Stewart Campbell, I think I saw you at Living the Dream as well coming up, and we took some photos in that regard. And as you were visiting schools today, it's just an honor to serve with you, for you, and alongside you. Thank you for all that all of you do. And that's just over the last 10 days what you've been doing. That doesn't even capture what you do regularly throughout the year. So the proclamation is as follows. Proclamation of Topeka United School District number 501, School Board Recognition Month, January 2023. Whereas the mission of Topeka Public Schools is to meet the diverse educational needs of all children and empower them to become competent, productive contributors to our community and our ever-changing world. And whereas school board members are committed to children and belief that all children can be successful learners, and that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of the child. Whereas the school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, business partners, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. And whereas our school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system. And whereas school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectation to the district. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Topeka Public Schools Unified District number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim January 2023 as School Board Recognition Month. In appreciation of the dedication and hard work of our school board members who works to create an education system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation is included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting January 19, 2023, in witness whereof we, the staff of Topeka United School District number 501, do hereby affix the signature of our superintendent and the official seal of the Board of Education this 19th of January 2023. Thank you for your support and dedication.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. We so appreciate recognition. We feel very spoiled, I think. But I do have the opportunity to be able to work with a wonderful board, and they're so active and care so much about our district. So we appreciate that recognition. Thank you.
As we prepare to move on to our next proclamation, only because I'm reading a proclamation, I have something in my eye. So don't put the camera on me at this moment. So I would like to ask each board member if you could share with the public, for those that have not met you yet or haven't had the opportunity to interact, just one item in terms of what helps you be fulfilled as a board member, what makes this job special, just one comment that you'd like to make as a board member, so everyone hears your voice in this space. So it could be something that just makes this job special, or just a reason that you feel like you have the honor to serve. And if I can turn it over to Madam President and then our Vice President and each board member, if there's something you'd like to share with the public, we'd love for them to know who you are. When you do speak, we're going to focus on you so that that is captured for our video later.
I will start. My particular reason for being a school board member is a love for Topeka Public Schools and the goal to have others respect it and love it and want to come here as much as I love it. Ms. Vice President, do you have a statement?
I love Topeka Public School. We specifically look for a house in Topeka Public School. Such an honor to be in a position where I can advocate for our students, and as you all know, I especially have a big heart for our most vulnerable population. And anything dealing with language learning.
My name's Lisa Schmidt. I am District 1, Position 1, so I'm over in the Highland Park area. And actually tonight, while I was reviewing the agenda before the meeting, I wrote down a quote from Martin Luther King Jr. as something that we were celebrating this week. And I think it actually encapsulates very well why I serve. And it is, as an individual has not started living until he can rise above the narrow confines of his individualistic concerns to the broader concerns of all humanity. And I think that's what all our board members I'm making an assumption there, is part of what drives us, is that that servanthood, being able to give to our school district, our community, our neighborhoods, our families.
I would totally second what Ms. Schmidt just said. I'm Keith Tatum and I am in District 3, Position 3. And I am a product of Topeka Public Schools. So for me, the importance of being able to take what I have learned and benefited from with this school district and to pass it along to help others who are coming up behind me and foster and nurture their success, including my own children who are either in the district or are graduates of the district. That's what energizes me. The feeling of leaving this world a potentially better place than it was before I got here is a big motivator for me, and seeing our youth excel and move forward in life is a big part of how that vision can be realized. Thanks.
I'm Dr. Schumacher. I don't know my district or position. There's a 1, 2, or 3 in there. I think. So I am a product, as a lot of us, of 501. I'm Randolph Robinson, Topeka High kid. And I'm a parent, like a lot of us, of kids in 501, and I'm a pediatrician to a lot of kids in 501. And every day when I see the kids that I take care of in the office, we talk a lot about school and how school intersects their lives. And to be able to impact that, at least in our district, has been great and very fulfilling and meaningful. And I make a lot of money here too. So we actually don't make any money. So that's a joke. I'm D2, P2.
Dr. Bonebrake, and petroleum, agriculture, these are not our greatest natural resources. They're children. And last 20 years, we've been lagging behind the rest of the world. We've been #1 in math and language international testing until late 90s, and now we're about 33rd out of 77. I don't like that. I'm more proud of our children, and I think they need to be given every advantage they can possibly get. I think I'm in general selection. I represent anybody. I'm not that large. Thank you.
And my name is Lalo Munoz. I am product of 501 and the parents of 3 children in our schools. And, you know, I want them to do as best as they can. But I'm not happy with just them doing well. I want their classmates to do just as well as they can. And so that's why I volunteer day in and day out for the last 3 years and for however long, you know, I'll voters will allow me to do this. And yeah, 501, we're known for that decision, Brownlee board, and where we promised our kids that, they'd have every opportunity. And I want to work to make sure we deliver on that here at 501. So.
School board is important really for 3 reasons. 1, service to our community and schools. 2, being visible in our schools and community. And then really, our school board works well with the partnership. Many have reached out to me and asked how we can help Ross be supportive and really help this community thrive.
I do not even know where to begin to thank 7 people who run one of the largest school districts in the state of Kansas. Most people don't even realize the amount of time that you spend to help serve others in our district. Thank you.
I think the Board of Education is really just important because I think they do a lot behind the scenes. We don't really get to see what they do. I felt like they were invested kind of in what I had to do and what I had to say. They felt like what they were doing made a difference, and I felt kind of like I kind of impacted everything they've done. And if it goes for one, I think it can go for all of us.
We here at Jardine Middle School wish to thank you and recognize you for all the hard work and time and commitment that you give in the city of Topeka. Thank you.
Thank you, Topeka Public Schools Board of Education.
Thank you, Topeka Board of Education.
Education for serving and for your dedication. Give them one more round of highlight is Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And I'm going to turn it over to Madam President to do the honors with this proclamation. We'll be asking our chief to please come on in. And if there are any officers that are with you, to please join you.
Well, before I even start, I want to tell you that I have worked with your officers in the school buildings, and they are so valuable. They make relationships with the students. They help out teachers when there's a conflict. Your presence at our building is powerful, and I want to thank you and all of your members for being there for our students. For the proclamation. Proclamation of Topeka United School Districts. Number 501, National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, January 9th, 2023. Whereas the Topeka Public Schools proudly join citizens across our nation to celebrate National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, which was founded to thank all law enforcement across the country. And whereas we appreciate the extraordinary sacrifice made by officers and their families on a daily basis in order to protect our schools, workplaces, roadways, and homes. And whereas these officers stand as leaders in the educating the community about public safety. And whereas on January 9th, citizens are given the opportunity to show their appreciation to the dedicated men and women of law enforcement who have answered the call to public service. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the Board of Education of Unified School District 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim January 9th, 2023 as National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And we encourage all citizens, including our youth, to thank our officers for protecting and serving our community. And be it further resolved that a copy of this proclamation be included in the minutes of the Board of Education meeting, January 19th, 2023.
I'm blessed to be here. It's really an honor and a privilege for me to be the chief of this district. I have a wonderful school board that supports Dr. Anderson. Actually, all of the team Mr. Robbins has, they help me out all the time. IT, Scott Gowan, and just I get Rob's site. I can call on anyone, and they just work with us, work together, and get things resolved. So, thank you very much. This is Officer Travis Adams. He's at Highland Park High School.
All right, that does conclude our highlights. We will share that when today's a work session day. So when you do get to the work session area, cultures and languages were the area that of focus. We really are only talking about IB for elementary because that's where we really left off at. So we have 2 elementary principals here today. Some who you saw in the video. When we get to that section, they'll talk about some research they've done in that area for just elementary as our focus. And Director of Cultural Innovation, Dr. McDowell, to be presenting as well. She's been doing that. Does
Thank you. I believe we have some visitors at the board meeting that would like to speak with the board. Our first one is Curtis Pitts. And as you come forward as a board president, I need to read information to you. Please come forward and state your name and your address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If you have a complaint that is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either myself as board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Ready to roll?
Your time will be listed right down there for 3 minutes.
Should have all my speaking clock running. One of the things I want to say is a great opportunity to share with you all today. Truly a beautiful time. I remember Mr. Lalo Munoz walking down the street with his little brother. I go to enroll in a class and, Kansas City Community College, and the person who enrolled me as an admission specialist and counselor was his younger brother, Chris, which made me feel old, so I'm changing my hair from gray to blonde, so nobody, please do not misunderstand where I'm at today. In 1993, I won your Friends of Education Award, and I was your regional award winner. Documents I put in front of you shows decades of impact. I've never run a camp that was just recreation. It's always been education based. And everybody in here that's a school board member, raise your hand. Everybody in here that's a product of a school board, Topeka 501 district, raise your hand. Coming from South Florida, we're all products of 501 school district. As you guys sit here, you need to realize and remember, as amazing of a job as you're doing, that you're the ones that integrated the entire world. When I came to town, I was so shocked. And if you read my resume and what's in the packet, I came here for one reason. Finished school, get married. I was Mrs. King's National Youth Coordinator at the King Center. When I talk about those things, people say, why did you stay in Topeka? And she would call me and say, when are you coming back? But one thing about Topeka, getting married and staying here, it gets a hold on you. But once I stayed here, I realized that Topeka was responsible for integrating the world and was something different. But right now, when we look at our numbers, we've gotten so comfortable as a society and as a community that we're not paying attention to what's going on with our young folks. The main thing that we have to grab and hang on to is the fact that we have to prepare them to be successful and compete in this world. I can tell you right now, I had their parents in educational camp, and they would always ask me simply, why do you keep talking to us about parenting? We're not parents. Our parents are not going to listen to us. The fact of it was that I was preparing them for generations to come. And right now, when I drive around town, I do all the time because my area of expertise is actually gang prevention. It used to be, but our numbers are so far down, and the young folks who used to head the gangs, they're working with us, trying to make sure the kids are staying in school. This is an amazing city. When I came here, I was so shocked. You know, I come from a place where the first non-African American moved in my neighborhood 3 years ago. When I came to Topeka, there was integration everywhere. But we've gotten comfortable. Our kids are making decisions. Now they're starting to carry guns, the good kids, because they're not sure what's happening out there on the street. They're trying to do the right thing, but we don't put them in environments and opportunities to make those types of positive decisions. So I'm coming to you as board members who've integrated the world, who have to be the trailblazers for change. You can't be like any other school board in the world anymore. You have to be the trailblazers for change. We have to make sure our kids are able to open a business when they leave school. They have to be able to run the business when they leave school. Because I always tell kids the best way to get a job is to create one. Is that 3 minutes already? My hello? But I'm asking you again, please remember agriculture, business preparation, and none of our gyms should be closed on the weekend because our kids are walking and the gang leaders are saying, Curtis, please do something because they're coming to our house and hanging out because they don't have anywhere else to go. We're not the west side of town. We have east side kids who don't have anywhere to go. Please open up those facilities and partner with community organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pitt, for coming and speaking with us. My next person to come forward would be Mr. Jeremy Gibson. Jeremy, or Mr. Gibson, as you approach the mic, please come forward and state your name and address for the records. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you should have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either myself as a board president or to the clerk of the board. Thank you.
Jeremy Gibson, 928 Southwest Fraser Avenue. I'm speaking before you today in response to a discussion that will be taking place concerning the International Baccalaureate and McClure and Scott. To begin, I questioned what was occurring on May 19th. And when it was discussed, it seemed at the time this was an open discussion of exploration and not a viable consideration at that moment. It was shared that it would cost around $12,000 per site, and Dr. Anderson shared with you that it's not a significant cost. At the two proposed sites, McClure and Topeka West, the cost would be minimal, around $24,000. And that was May 19th. Today, the plans and financial considerations appear to have changed. First, the schools to be presented today are McClure and Scott. To be fair, Scott's principal at that time did voice interest during that May 19th meeting. If, by looking at the cost estimate, which was in the proposal or is going to be discussed, each school would pay $13,500 for consideration, candidacy, and consultation. However, as the cost estimate explains, the training cost per participant would be anywhere between $450 to $750 per teacher, and all teachers must be trained using teacher numbers provided by to NEA Topeka at the beginning of the school year, this would mean McClure with 25 teachers would cost an average or anywhere between $11,250 to $18,750. And Scott with 32 teachers would be $14,400 to $24,000 for a grand total of roughly $52,000 to almost $70,000 for the district in total. This does not include the cost for materials and classroom supplies needed for students. Does this bother me? Slightly. What really caught my attention was the fact that each school's PTA could be on the hook for $8,500 per year to make this happen. Speaking strictly as a private citizen, this bothers me immensely, as it should bother the board as well. PTAs raise money for a variety of things. Supplementing monies for what appears to be an annual licensing fee should not be one of them. If the discussion to happen later comes from the lens of partnership, this is the rationale behind the shared cost. Let's be clear. As a tax-paying public, we are paying a variety of taxes to assure we are upholding our obligation to finance the public education for our students. As citizens, we elect board members to act as good overseers of obligations, and in turn, they will act in the best interests of the public they represent. We expect board members to question the actions of leadership when they contract with, and when the occasion arises, stop actions from happening which are not in the best interest of the public they serve. Furthermore, may I ask for one more minute?
Yes. You may have one more minute.
Okay, thank you. Furthermore, at no point in time during this process has there been any discussions with NEH Topeka and the USC 501 in relation to the proposal. I can only surmise that the district is exploring options other than the current delivery of learning we currently uphold. To that end, I say fantastic. We should always explore options, as education is not a static process, but a fluid endeavor. As many of you remember, whenever there is a need to move an agenda like budget cuts under Dr. Singer, or a bond to pass like TCALC, or a big idea to move forward like Equity Council under Julie Ford, those kinds of movements came to fruition with your partnership with your Teachers Association. In this instance, this has not happened.
Time. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. We appreciate you being here. Next on our agenda is business by consent. I wonder if I might have a motion.
Madam President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special project and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Do I have a second to that motion? Mr. or Dr. Bonebrake? Are there any questions on the business of consent? I see none. Ms. Lister? Thank you. Next will be our superintendent's report. She has an update for us.
Thank you. And I'm superintendent today, since we have the topic of culture and languages, we're going to give the update about our Ukrainian families as well as our students overall across the district. So we started this new position. We put it in our strategic plan. So Dr. Mejia is going to come forward. We'll pull up one slide. It's just an update. You know that number of people that are in the district that we're serving. I believe that Dr. B gets started and comes to the mic. She'll share a little bit about not just our Ukrainian families, but our newcomer families and just some of the offerings that we have across the district. At the very end of this school year, we also will bring back a presentation just to the board, just to kind of have that overall update of where we end the year as she would have had a and she can share number of things that she is focused on culturally. Dr. Mia.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Good evening, Madam President, and congratulations, Madam Vice President. Congratulations to you and board members. To summarize what's been going on in Topeka Public Schools in terms of the newcomer program, we have currently 26 newcomer students at Jardine Middle School where this program is housed. And they are placed there per the KELPA results. There are 3 languages represented within the newcomers, but there are 8 countries, and 7 of those 8 countries are Spanish-speaking countries, which brings the beauty of a diverse culture, because there are cultures within cultures, right? So these countries are very diverse, and they get a phenomenal opportunity to learn from and about each other. In terms of our Ukrainian students, we currently have 32 as of today, and there are 2 languages represented at least, which are Ukrainian and Russian. The graph there, which is not very big, tells you the distribution of students within Topeka Public Schools and the schools and the grade levels. The blue bar represents Shaner Early Learning Academy with 2 students. Then we have preschool at Jardine Elementary, which is the red bars represent Jardine Elementary. We have 2 in preschool, 3 in kinder, 2 in first, 2 in second, 4 in third, 1 in fourth, and 3 in fifth. Then we have the middle school, the gray bars. We have 3 in sixth, 2 in seventh and eighth, respectively. And finally, our high school, Topeka High School, has 3 ninth graders, 2 10th graders, and 1 junior. No seniors at this time. Also, in terms of offerings, cultural offerings in Topeka Public Schools, we of course have the dual language program, preschool through 12th grade, and the world languages, which at this time we have Spanish, French, German, and American Sign Language. Also, in terms of culture, our Native American Studies is also a focus of ours, which you heard Mr. Yale Taylor speak of a few board meetings ago, doing a wonderful job. And of course, in terms of cultural offerings, Topeka Public Schools has a global outlook with 27 languages represented, which is fantastic. It's truly global. So support systems, you know, for employment, we have been looking at who the people are who need employment, what their skill sets are and their interests, and how they pair up with the needs of Topeka Public Schools. We conduct parent surveys to see what the needs are, how they feel about how they're being served, as well as their students, how they feel their students are served. We offer tours, the Welcome Center, which Mrs. Curry, Mrs. Curry is the head of that building, and where the EL program is housed, offer a variety of supports and resources. So there are translation, interpreting services as well in our district, and we provide school supplies. One item that I was remiss to put on here is that Topeka Public Schools has put in place transportation services for the newcomers in the middle school so that they can participate in sports. It's an activities bus, because otherwise that would have been, it's a great challenge. So another way that we are removing barriers for students to have a variety of opportunities and experiences in Topeka Public Schools.
So with that update, we'll turn it over for questions. Our families from Ukraine previously did not have work permits. They received those in the last 2 weeks, and we've since hired 10 people in the last 3 weeks in a variety of roles, from paraprofessional to service to custodian, and hiring them. In fact, the nutrition staff that started, everything from running a chef to a food truck in Russia, in Ukraine. It's been amazing skill set that they have. Dr. Mejia shared that some of our Ukrainian families, at least one for sure, speaks Italian. And Dr. Mejia, that's one of the 4 languages that she speaks. That individual.
She has a variety of experiences, not teaching, but she's a great chef, like a great cook. So she is at food service now. May I tell that anecdote about how language breaks barriers?
Yes, and that particular person actually worked in Italy as a chef, therefore is now in our food service and speaks Italian, which she learned in Italy when she was a chef there, but she is from Ukraine. I mean, just the stories are amazing. And we're going to turn it over to questions, but did you have something else?
A short anecdote. Yes, Dr. Anderson, thank you. I was meeting with this lady and her daughter. They have one kid at Jardine Middle. And we had another person there interpreting because the grandma does not speak English. So in the conversations, somehow it came up, the question came up from the grandma, why, hey, how come there are so many Spanish speaking people in Topeka? And I said, well, because we are great, because we need to be everywhere, because, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then something came up and then she started saying that she Italy, da, 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 and seconds before that, she and I could not communicate directly. And it was all like this through the interpreter. And then barrier shattered because of language. And so she's now my Italian buddy.
So that's just a brief update. We really just hit just the beginning of kind of what we're doing. The support services is very broad in general. That is pretty extensive. Everything housing. With that, that gives you just a cultural language brief update and the role that she has. Turn it over to you, Madam President, for questions, and we'll move right into our IB presentation, which continues along the theme of culture and languages for elementary only.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I am assuming I might have some questions here on the board that we have from Dr. Mejia. So I knew this person beside me would, so Miss Melanie.
Dr. Mejia, you're doing a fabulous job in this role. I know I say every time I'm so happy that Dr. Anderson, that this role was this position was created and that Dr. Mejia is in it. And I have to say that I remember years ago when I was the EL consultant at KSDE, Topeka 501's EL program, it was fine. Now it's great. And Miss Curry needs to be credited for that. Yes. Under Miss Curry's leadership, we started the Welcome Center, the newcomer program that Dr. Mejia is talking about, dual language. Every school now has EL services, EL consulting teachers. Anyway, I just clap for Miss Curry here. I really, I've been around a long time, so I've seen all this. Okay, now my question. Dr. Mejia, you said that there are transportation services at the school. Is
For
that
the
just
newcomer
the-
program.
Right, excuse me, right, for newcomer, is that must only be for the Ukraine? Is that correct?
No, ma'am. It is for all of the newcomers.
Okay, this is good to know because I recently, in my migrant position, found I was visiting a migrant family and there was this 12-year-old girl just sitting in a house, like she's a newcomer from Honduras. And I mean, this just recently happened. She started Jardine on Tuesday. And yeah, Miss Curry met her because she took her to the newcomer center and she went clothes shopping. You know, there's also a clothing closet. And anyway, and we were told is the transportation. Hell, it's in the system. So my husband's been taking her with mom's permission. And
So to school or for sports? This is an activity bus.
Oh, it's just activity. Oh,
And to clarify that piece, yes, there is that couple of days for transportation to become active once the student enrolls.
Okay.
Should they
so
qualify for
we're just referring
transportation?
to activity.
Yes, ma'am.
That's really good to know. I'll make sure she knows that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Tatum.
So, thank you, Madam President. So I have a strange question and, I guess I'll just go ahead and ask it because someone probably knows the answer to this. Last summer for the summer enrichment program, my 13-year-old daughter Kylie apparently was very instrumental in helping the Ukrainian students get acclimated to life in the 501 school district. And since that time, Kylie has asked about those students that she interacted with and apparently formed a bond with, but has fallen out of touch with those students. So if it is possible for her to connect with them again, I think that'd be fantastic. I'm glad we're having this conversation because she talked to me about this, probably a couple months ago, and I meant to follow up on it. But it sounds like our new Ukrainian members of the Topeka community, that they may be staying around for a while, and kudos, Dr. Anderson, to jumping on the opportunities to get them jobs here in the district, because that further increases the likelihood that they're going to stay and be a permanent part of our community. But yeah, I'm glad we're having this conversation. I know that it was Kylie enjoyed that experience of being able to help guide and provide some nurturing for the other students. So if there's any way that we can get them reconnected, that would be fantastic.
That particular family moved. That was our first
They
Ukrainian.
did, yes.
So that particular family moved. However, we will say, to your point, the offerings for the summer will continue this year. And again, we have now 30 people. That was the very first family. So we will be offering that through Ms. Walton's department again, and it just provides an opportunity for socialization.
Yes, they moved to a place where they had a church community and some family. So they loved everything that they were offered here and the support that they received. But they needed to make that change to meet their specific needs at the time.
Thank you for the update, and I will let Kylie know.
Okay.
Dr. Bonebreak.
That be expanded,
The program meeting for you.
newcomer, more Ukrainians, more Bosnians, more Germans.
Anybody, and really, Mr. Hamer is the best person to talk about newcomer. We can always bring it back, but anybody that comes that is a newcomer goes to Jardine Middle School. So there really is not a limit. We adjust and staff based on the students that show up. And that's for any school, doesn't matter where you come from. And so as students come in, we ensure that we have the additional staff. Through Ms. Curry, one of the new roles was the adding, because we have 18 students at Jardine Elementary, adding an EL para that speaks Ukrainian who can be a support and bridge. So no, there is not a limit to the students that we accept in any of our programs.
September 20th notwithstanding.
If it's after September 20th, we still accept them. We may not get paid for the individual students, but we still accept them. And it's just been wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Mejia. Are there any other questions as we prepare to roll into our IB presentation?
I did have a question myself. I know that we had a newcomers activity around the holidays for all of our newcomers down at our welcoming center down here at Quinton Heights. Do we do any more of those or help families from the same area, same culture, same language, get together, have activities where they can form their community here?
Well, now the event you're talking about is probably Mrs.
Yes,
Curry's
all the
EL
credit goes to
night.
her.
And so that EL family night, she's been having that for years. And as she has had that for years, it really does allow for many people to come out. Beyond that, in terms of other activities.
Another Wednesday, I can't remember exactly, but it's gonna be focused on Spanish. And we're gonna see if there's other families that we haven't maybe reached out to. I know we have some Pompeian families, some Mandarin Chinese, so we want to make sure we're making this all encompass. We're gonna be funds from the K-State grant to help us make that a really good event. So usually we have low attendance at the spring one, like only about 50 to 75. So our goal is to really bring those numbers up so they're more like they are in the winter. This year it was a lower attendance than usual. We only had 214 attend this year, but we're still working to continue to bring those numbers up. So thank you.
Now, while Ms. Curry is still up, since she was mentioned before, and as we prepare to start this next presentation, it's really interesting. And, it's been really interesting because starting in this role, the question of things like, it came up from a principal, parents have to go all over to enroll. So, why is that? Can we just have one place for that? She said, I love the idea. She starts with yes to all of those. So the barriers really weren't barriers that were self-imposed. These were just things that were ideas that Ms. Curry shared. She always had, like EL at the various schools. Can we do that? As we learned that, I'm new. I don't know any better. I'm just learning that all the EL students go to Highland Park and they leave their middle school and they all go to Highland Park. Why is that? She said, I would love to have more EL programs and staffing, and she makes that schedule work, including the clothing bank. Fred Willer at Highland Park at one social work meeting shared, can we start our own clothing bank? Well, we now have a welcome center. Why don't we have it there? We go to Ms. Curry. I would love to. So this spirit of starting with yes and learning that as we share these ideas and as we gain them from others, as we all gain them from others, she's open and willing to grow. And often these are things that were hopes that she had long ago. And I think that, and she's welcome. I love to have the energy, with her words, not mine, of just, people and other individuals of leadership coming in that says, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? She's willing. And that willing spirit makes all the difference and speaks to all the things that we've done the last 6 or 7 years and the growth. It's that growth mindset. So thank you again, Ms. Curry.
Thank you. I appreciate all the,
All right.
I'm sure glad I came today.
I got one more. So as you all know, in Migrant, I work with lots of different school districts whose EL programs need improvement. And so I direct them to contact one because ours is amazing. And Ms. Curry, are there districts outside of Kansas that call you for advice on how to improve their programs?
I have had,
Can you talk to us a little
and I've
about
had
that?
the Arkansas has called me. I've had some calls from Missouri. I've had some calls from, I had one call from Oklahoma that somehow they said, I was told to call you. We're open, we're starting an EL program. I'm like, who told you that? They can never remember. I'd love to find out if Angel is out there. But yeah, we have had some. And I think the thing that's really neat is when I started, and it was just a really fledgling program. You start with a job and you kind of feel like, gosh, how do I even get started? And I really reached out to people across the state. And I thought, boy, if I ever know what I'm doing, pass that forward. So I'm not saying I really know this thing. I know enough that I feel like I can start passing that forward. So thanks for bringing that up.
I had one more question. I had some community members want to know if we had the same outreach, the same red carpet for all of our migrant students besides the Ukrainian culture. Do we have a open carpet for all migrants or
Absolutely,
newcomers
yes.
in our district?
Yes, 100%. Yes, we do. Open door. We are dedicated to helping every single English language learner and immigrant student that comes into us. Also with our migrant students. Absolutely.
Thank you for answering that. We appreciate the work that you're doing to make our community so inclusive and diverse and learning new cultural ways that make our community so much more exciting. Thank you.
Appreciate it. So with that presentation, thank you, Dr. Mejia and Ms. Curry. With that presentation, the spirit behind that, as people are listening, the listening tours and all these other things are really important because without the ideas, you can't serve needs you don't know. And as we hear things like, man, parents go to 5 places to enroll, that was a really easy fix. And I thank those that shared that because it's just bringing it to say, can we just use this building? And at the time, we were going into online registration. So all of that lined up nicely. If Fred Willer had said at a social work meeting, you know, we'd love to have this clothing bank, it would not exist today. So we encourage people to continue to share that kind of feedback so that we can continue to grow and develop. So as our 2 principals are here this evening and our assistant principal, also Teacher of the Year finalist for Kansas, and our 20 under 30. So we just have a dynamite team. Okay, so to remind you, you know, the last time that our team was here, it was, you know, not yet, continue to do some research, and they've been researching and learning, and we're really going to be asking for consensus to allow them to continue the exploration as it relates to IB for elementary only. Value in that space of exploring elementary. We will share that we're fortunate because these 2 schools do have grant dollars to fund this. So that's part of this space under title. They can be funded and we can use our grant dollars for this. Unlike, you know, we do fund AVID and other programs, but that's under general fund. This is really grant dollars that they would like to use. They've gone on a conference to do some research. So I'm going to turn it over to these ladies and their PowerPoint you should have in your board doc.
Right. Good evening, board members. We look forward to sharing with you what myself and Ms. Gorsuch learned when we went to a conference back in December. Before we do that, Dr. Anderson often challenges us in meetings to capture an experience in one word, and we wanted to start with that. Based upon our experience at this IB conference, I felt empowerment represented my takeaway from this conference. And Ms. Gorsuch?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Anderson. So I came away with the word opportunity. And as I was listening to some of our board members speak, I heard someone say that we want to have the best opportunity for our students. We want them to have the greatest advantage. And that is what I think IB can do. I went in as a skeptic and I came out sold. And so I see IB as an opportunity not only for Scott Dual Language Magnet students, but for more students to expand languages and to really enhance our community and our world. So we hope that you'll see that as well. Oh, yes, this is mine. Thank you. So we want to start with the IB philosophy, which is that the International Baccalaureate aims to develop inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help create better and a more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. Some of the big takeaways before we move on to the next slide that I want to add on is that oftentimes when we think about what do we want our students to be able to do and what kind of children do we want to put out into the world, do you ever hear someone say, oh, we want them to be able to take tests well? No, what do we want? What experience and what product do we want to put out into the world? I'll tell you. All right, Dr. Ernst, thank you. What do we want? We want students who are able to speak up for themselves, to advocate for themselves, who have knowledge of the world and want to make a difference. We want students who ask questions and have agency to step forward. We want students who have an international minded perspective and who value language and culture, who are able to step out, who are well-rounded, and also students who have a perspective of themselves, that they know who they are and they know what good values are. IB encompasses all of those qualities, and then it's also a framework for teaching and a framework for learning. So there's a lot of opportunity for our students and to produce better humans out into the world.
So with that in mind, this is the framework for the PYP primary years program framework of the IB program. It very much, that is what it is. It is a framework. It outlines all of these concepts right here. I'm not going to go into that in detail right now, but just wanted to give you a visual of the thoroughness and the intricacies of this framework. All of that being said, the framework then feeds into what they refer to as the learner profile attributes, these key skills and characteristics that IB students will walk away with as a result of their experience within this framework. Also, earlier this evening, I heard Dr. Bonebreak, you mentioned something along the lines of being competitive in an international market. And so Ms. Gorsuch is going to give you a quick visual of how this program can put Topeka Public Schools on the map and provide us an opportunity to be competitive within not just our country, but also across the world.
So this map shows obviously the world. And one of the things they shared in our conference was what the most or the quickest growing for IB regions is. And I was surprised by the answer. The United States is one of the fastest growing regions for IB because families, schools, and children are benefiting from it. And so if we go to the next slide, you'll see a view of the United States. And I believe you may have already seen it, so I'll be quick. But what I notice when I look at this is a lack of this opportunity for our children in the Midwest. And if we go to the next slide, this zooms into Kansas. There are 15 high school programs in our area that you can see. There are 0 middle school programs and 0 primary years programs. The closest is in Boys Town, Nebraska. And I think there's just 1 program there. You will notice that you see the little icon of here you are on the map. There is 1 high school program, which we know is in a nearby district. But one of the things that we were very impressed by and surprised by is IB's ability to draw more students and more families in from other districts. And not just families, but also teachers and staff, high quality, because it's a framework that once you're taught it, you believe in it and you don't see any other way of teaching because of the results it produces for our children and the success that children have in that program. And so we really feel like bringing IB to Topeka is not just going to benefit our 2 schools, but it's going to benefit our community and our district.
And so going a little deeper into what Ms. Gorsuch just shared, one, as you can see, these are many of the benefits for bringing an IB program to Topeka Public Schools. And one of the opportunities we had during this conference was to truly just have candid conversations with other educators who are implementing IB framework. And we very much, as she mentioned, she was a bit of a skeptic walking in. So we asked the hard questions of these colleagues, principals, educators, district members, and one of the number 1 benefits that we continue to hear time and time again, aside from all of the things that our students would have access to and the opportunities that they would receive, was the fact that IB programs increase staff recruitment. There are staff and teachers who want to work in an IB program and support increased enrollment rates. It is very much competitive in terms of schools who have an IB program. I'm not going to go further into the other bulleted items as you can read those yourself. But one other takeaway we had was, well, really throughout the whole weekend, we were taking notes very furiously. And every time we would hear one way that the IB program aligned with what we have already started implementing here in Topeka Public Schools. And Ms. Gorsuch will speak a little bit more to that.
Sure. And Dr. Archer, I would like to add, especially for one of the reasons we're here tonight is about language and culture. And so one of the bullets is that this would bring more language opportunities for our younger students. And if you have a second language, you know, the earlier that you start learning a language, the more you value it and the more of a chance you have to become proficient in it. And so that's something I'm very passionate about. And I think our district values as we're speaking about these, about languages and cultures and world-mindedness, IB does that. And it's part of their philosophy and framework. And it really sets students up for success in language acquisition. So one of the questions that we thought is, how will this fit into the big picture of what we're already doing in Topeka? is IB going to conflict with anything? Is this going to be something that is going to work? And when we were at the conference, we heard all about visible learning, best practices. We heard about that there's a main component of transdisciplinary approach to teaching, which means combining the subjects and having students use an inquiry-based approach. And these are things that we're already doing in our district. We're doing project-based learning. IB really believes in family engagement. CI3T just having an overarching framework for learning. And then the big sell, the really big piece is it continues our work in social emotional learning and adds a character development element. It goes on top of just having students who are going to be safe and responsible. It talks about how can we teach students to be caring, to be not just knowledgeable, but thinkers and problem solvers. How can we help teach kids to be principled? And someone explained it in a really great way, is being principled means doing the right thing when no one's looking. That's the kind of education I want for my future children, and I want for my children at Scott. That's what I want for our community. I think that not only right now would this be wonderful for our kids, but it would reap the benefits in the future, because we would be producing students who have these values in a way that we're not currently focusing on. It really broadens it, and it gives a lot more emphasis to the whole child approach.
In speaking about our specific schools, McClure specifically, this very much so complements our character development initiative and would only deepen it even further based upon those attributes that we mentioned earlier. One thing that I wanted to note was, upon further research, it was discovered that American Sign Language has recently been approved as a second or a foreign language that can be selected by a school within the primary years program. And so for McClure specifically, if we were to receive approval to step into the next exploration phase, the proposed language of choice would be American Sign Language for our school.
Okay, so then for Scott Dual Language Magnet, I know when I spoke before, I was a little hesitant. How is this going to work with our Gomez and Gomez model? Is this what's right for our staff and our students? And after a lot of exploration, a lot of question asking, I feel that it is an amazing next step. I think it'll help us reach fidelity in our Gomez and Gomez model even faster, because the framework for learning coincides. There are many similarities in how the classroom is set up, and also the language component. So the list of reasons why IB would be great for Scott is there, but I also think that the professional development opportunities that you're purchasing when you are going into IB are top notch, and something that will help our teachers be able to better teach our students, and is something that would permeate throughout our district as well, because they really teach through a modeling how to teach versus a telling how to teach. And I came back a better principal because of the training that I went to. And so I want that for my staff. I think that they may be hesitant, but we would like permission to be able to take that next step, get the training, make a very informed decision to make sure it's the right next step. But the training itself is worth the investment, and it's extremely high quality.
And we will conclude with an overview of what the process entails in terms of becoming a solidified IB program. And it is a multi-year process. They are very intentional in terms of rolling it out to a school or a district. Initially, it's really all about exploration. And that is, as you can see at the very top, we went to the head of schools professional development to just research and learn more about what it entails. What we are asking is for your support to move into what we would refer to as the year of consideration. And that is simply what it is. They are very much proponents of being intentional in adoption to ensure that research is done in a way that it makes sense and works for your setting and your district. And so we recognize this is a multi-year process. And we are simply asking, like I said, for your approval to move into the year of consideration for candidacy.
ladies, for sharing the presentation and for the time investment that you've given to explore opportunities for Topeka. As we transition and turn this over to our board, that year of consideration is where it's the year in which they continue to research, learn, share what ideas for their schools. They met Gomez schools, and so they actually want to go visit some of those places for Scott dual language, and to really have that continued year of consideration. And what I shared is it's most helpful to come back to the board to have consensus, and then we'll be coming back again at the end of that year of consideration should they continue to move forward on that next step of the process. I'm going to turn it over to our school board members for questions in that regard.
Thank you. Do I have any questions up here? Dr. Bonebreak.
We considered this a year ago. My primary concern is, is it not something we can instruct our teachers in with their professional development days? And can't we thus teach our children how to ask questions, how to learn, rather than just memorize?
Absolutely. That was the alignment slide that we would hope that we'd be doing that with all of our students. The IB seal and the IB program itself, we can't reference ourselves as an international baccalaureate or utilize that for recruitment of staff, students. We can't call it an IB, but we certainly can say we teach with an inquiry-based mindset. I mean, we can certainly say that, much like we have AVID. We can't call ourselves an AVID school, unless we are participating in the AVID program and paying the fee for an AVID program in particular. So the fee associated with this, that application fee is about $4,000, but staff development that we normally invest in our staff, often is that amount or far more. But this idea of giving them a structured framework to complement what we already do is what they're asking, and to have a language as well as it relates to McClure, which is sign language embedded within her program. So they see this as an enhancement and another opportunity. Right now, Topeka Public Schools is the only place that has a pre-K-12 dual language program. We're the only place that has an elementary, well, not the only, but one of, I think, about 10 that have in the state of Kansas, an elementary virtual program. We are really working to make this a destination district, that whatever you want within your program, whatever that draws you to a district, this very well could be that space. So the goal here is to present what these leaders would like to see as an enhancement for just these two schools, using title funds to support the IB for these two particular schools. I don't know if that kind of answers that. Yes, we do want to teach all students to think, but at the same time, they want to enhance what we do with an opportunity to encourage more people to enroll and bring their children here who are looking for that international baccalaureate seal. And there's only one high school in this area, and we'd be the only elementary in the state of Kansas. If we were to proceed, assuming we're the only one looking at this for consideration.
We have the money.
Yes, Ms. Wallace, do you want to speak about cost and the gift perspective in that regard?
Yes, so both McClure and Scott are Title I schools, and outside of staffing, they have discretionary dollars that can be utilized to pay for those fees.
Can I follow up to that? When you say outside of staffing, does that mean?
Well, currently, Title I budgets are used for resources and supplies and supplemental materials, but a majority of Title I dollars at any one school are spent on additional staff. At the elementary school, instructional coaches are funded out of their Title I budget, as well as any additional interventionists. So all schools have one general funded interventionist, and any additional interventionists are paid out of their individual schools' Title I budget.
Okay, just because at the board, we've discussed how we want creative models to address staff recruitment. Title dollars can be used, for incentives, signing bonuses. and all that. Yeah.
No, I mean their salary. So we hire additional, like the coach's salary is funded out of Title I, as is any additional interventionist. Some schools have a dean of students. So those are positions that are, the salary and any addendums are funded out of Title I.
And Mr. Kimball, the items that you mentioned, they have a list of things like that that can't actually be funded, the items that you just listed. But you're thinking about how do we continue to creatively recruit?
Addendums are, yeah, which could help retain.
Ms. Schmidt.
Okay, so slide 8, the benefits of IB World Schools for Topeka Public Schools. I love these bullet points. My question is, do you have data to back this up?
Back to that slide.
A great question. I am very much a data-driven principal. I will tell you, we do not have numbers at this time. A lot of this was based off of the research that was listed on the IB website, which if you were to go to the very last slide, you can access that website. And there are actually research studies that are listed there, a plethora of different resources. But also, in addition to that, going back to what I mentioned earlier, was those items were listed within the website, but then they were also backed by the individuals in which we just had true conversations with. So while we don't have quantitative data, I do feel like we have some qualitative data to back that up.
And I would like to add to that. Could we please go back to that slide? Thank you. So when we speak to staff recruitment, I can already tell you for next year, I've hired a bilingual teacher who has IB background, who wasn't necessarily sold on going to elementary, actually had said no to someone else in the district, but because she came to our school, because she met our students, because we are going to become an IB school, she said yes. We also heard a story at one of our meals of a teacher, and I told this story before. I wish I remembered where. Maybe you remember where she came from, but I feel like she moved across oceans. Yeah, like from Singapore to California. And I was like, why'd you move there? Because I was looking for an IB school in the area, and that's where I went. It draws people. It does. And we also heard that one school who just started that year of consideration, she said, yeah, you better have space because 30 more kids enrolled within just finding out that we wanted to consider becoming IB. It draws people, and it will expand our programs for language.
And just to tag on to that, as Dr. Anderson shared earlier, IB, the seal is essentially what communicates. In my opinion, based upon what others were sharing, is that's the appeal, because that provides assurance that what it stands for is actually being done with fidelity, because it is such a robust process to, one, become truly certified, but to maintain your certification. It is ongoing, multi-year process every 5 years. And so you truly have to show evidence of the framework being implemented the way it's intended to remain and be initially certified. And so when a teacher, an educator, or a parent who might be familiar with IB sees that a school has that IB seal, they know they have truly met the requirements that are outlined in the framework of an IB program.
A couple of additional points to add is that, like Dr. Arzer said, it's part of the requirements to be an IB school. And so there is a promise that you're stating when you have that seal. So you're promising a product. I mean, think of our favorite products, Apple products. There's a promise when we have a certain product. And the promise for the whole child and social emotional learning is the fact that your school has to have these posters all around of all of our values that we believe in. The framework for teaching has requirements for how we lesson plan and connect subjects. There has to be a language teacher. So those are promises that I think represent data. But in addition to that, I had another thought, the teacher collaboration. I think that's a big sell for our staff. Like, who doesn't want to collaborate more and learn more? Part of being an IB school requires ongoing collaboration and coaching support to ensure that we are fulfilling the promise that we're saying when we become an IB school.
These principles returned from the conference and presented to myself, Ms. Sharp, Ms. Wallace, the same PowerPoint that you saw. And we continue to learn and appreciate benefits to explore the year of consideration. When they return, should you approve, address, or give consensus on allowing them to consider this as a potential enhancement for their programs, they'll be returning with staff. Because that staff will be under that year of consideration, really looking at the other components of International Baccalaureate, the pieces that will complement, and should they want to move forward, they can go back with some of their teaching staff as well, and that presentation includes what it looks like for each of their schools. But that does take a greater involved study, which we prefer to take with a consensus, giving us allowance for these two schools to do that.
Mr. Munoz has a question.
Yeah, so last year, one of our biggest worries was that this might compete in a way with dual language. And from what I'm hearing you, that it doesn't compete, but that in fact that it complements. Is that?
That is correct. And that was my biggest skepticism going into the conference, is I just needed assurance. And I found it because there was a table of 5 principals from a district that are Gomez and Gomez schools, who are now my partners in finding out how this can work, who, like Dr. Anderson mentioned, we would love to go and see it in action and make sure that that would be the next right step. And so I'm not sure how many total in the United States, but I know for sure that other districts that are Gomez and Gomez are already implementing it and are already IB schools.
That was my next question, was that if you saw any others who also have dual language programs who are exploring or have already done this next step in terms of IB.
Yes, we did. Mhm.
And my other question I have is, the other question for us was, what language might we explore at McClure? And so I understand that this recent change allows you to consider sign language. Is that something you believe will be supported, or sort of would there be interest in that?
Absolutely. It's funny you ask. I was just 2 days ago in the lunchroom and I walked by a few girls who were signing to each other during lunch. And I just said, "Oh, I see you're signing. Talk to me more about that." They said, "We really just wanted to learn more about it. My dad's best friend is deaf and I wanted to know how to communicate." Last year, we had a family who, this student, both of her parents were deaf. And the inability for us to truly be able to communicate them in a way like we can anyone else was something that I wanted to learn more about, to ensure that all languages have the opportunity to be represented. And I think this would be a great opportunity to bring sign language to our students at the elementary level.
Because I know that we did have somebody at public communications ask for an opportunity to be able to more students to learn sign language. It sounds like one way to be able to build a foundation for that. And it seems like with my visit to you, Dr. Archer at McClure, that what you're already teaching some of the students in terms of character development, it blends well with this model. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that is what the selling point was for me. My aha moment during this conference was every single time they would speak to really starting at the foundation of elementary years is building students who are learners, lifetime learners, but also just good humans. It complements everything in which we are doing already in terms of character development at my school.
Okay, thank you all.
I have a question, actually a couple. So I really appreciate building excellent human beings in our schools and our community. My big concern is building students with rigor. So many times our students go to high school and want to take AP classes and then find out that they just can't continue with that rigor. And so my excitement with this is starting to build rigor in a younger age. And I heard a lot about building character, that part of it. Can you tell me more about the actual education piece of it that we think will be so valuable for our students and build that rigor?
Yes. So one of the things I think that builds rigor, well, and I would ask you a question, but I know we're short on time, is when we're thinking about building rigor in students, we're asking them to become problem solvers and we're asking them to persevere. So I don't think you can separate character and rigor. I think they're very melded. And one of the things that IB does is it has a transdisciplinary approach that's truly student-centered. If we could go back to the slide that has all of the elements of the PYP program, I would appreciate that. Will I get in trouble if I walk around and point to things? Can I? Okay. All right. So some of the elements, can't take the teacher out of me. It's just here. All right. So some of the elements that I think will really help with our rigor is we're not just teaching test taking skills, we're teaching thinking skills, social skills, communication skills, self-management skills, and research skills. What doesn't shout rigor in that? Because why don't kids succeed at higher depths of knowledge? Why? Because they don't have these skills. They can't ask questions. They don't know how to find the information for themselves. They just get stuck and there's this learned helplessness. It teaches that. And it also is a lot about helping students see value in education because it's saying, who am I in this lesson? What place are we in time? How do we express ourselves? How does the world work? How do we organize ourselves? And how are we sharing the planet? So it makes those real life connections and makes learning meaningful. I don't know about you, but as a teacher, one of the hardest parts was to be able to connect my math lessons to the real world. It's hard to do that. And so you're building in that challenge by asking teachers and asking students to reflect on this and make those connections, connecting concepts, rigor. Another piece is that they look, is a well, we talked about the transdisciplinary themes and melding concepts. There's also at the end of the elementary years, an exhibition that students put on. It's like a final project and it's service-based related where students have to show the results of their learning. Rigor, right? Having students apply their learning to the real world and present it in front of other people. Their student agency and advocacy, all of these things are in your high depths of knowledge. And so, like you said, the possibility of helping students develop these skills, not just learn this knowledge and not just like, hey, I can do 5th grade math at a depth of, a 4 on the state assessment. That's not going to help us. That's not going to help them to continue to maintain that. Those are skills, that's academics. But what this is it's looking at how can we build humans that are going to be able to confront any challenge, anything, any problem, and come out on top. So I think it has rigor in its whole entire framework. Would you like to add?
I just want to simply add, actually during the conference, we had an opportunity to ask questions. Our presenter of our particular workshop said, what burning questions do you still have? And I actually asked a question, how does rigor intertwine throughout this framework? And it turned into an hour-long conversation with the principals and the presenter, because rigor can often be a buzzword, which sounds great and flashy, but we really maybe don't fully understand truly what it looks like. And the director took us through, he is a principal of his own IB elementary school in Seattle. And he really took us through the misconceptions of what that looks like, and then really how it is intertwined in the IB program and framework. But not only that, how the staff will receive the proper professional development on how to intertwine true levels of rigor within their instructional practices. Through this framework, every staff member is required to receive a set amount of professional development, even new staff members to us. So the onboarding process is seamless. And so that to me was a huge selling point as well. We can say we are embedding opportunities for rigor, but really the IB framework is setting up our students and teachers for success and ensuring that that is happening.
My next question would be from a public comment that was occurred tonight. So do you feel like there'll be much pushback in your building if you go to this route?
for the year of consideration?
No, we work with amazing educators who are always willing to do what is best for the students. And while that's a very simple statement, my staff, based upon the conversations I started having with them last spring, they are very much open to exploring this. They want to learn more. Any opportunity where they can receive ideas, quality training, opportunities to better support their students, they are gung-ho ready to go. I mentioned last week during a staff meeting, I shared with them that I was coming to present to you all again tonight, and had the opportunity for them to speak with me about any concerns, and none were stated at that time. More or less, they're just open. They want to learn more, just like we do within this year of consideration. I also think that they were happy or relieved at least to hear that this is a slow process. It's not something we're throwing at them. It's very intentional. And that, I believe, is what reassures them in terms of they know that we're going to be intentional in this year of consideration and really researching what this would look like if we were to pursue further. All right. So at Scott Dual Language Magnet, in talking with my staff and getting their honest opinions, I asked for it. I said, what are your thoughts? Made sure that they were informed, but the overwhelming consensus I got back is we need more information to be able to fully determine. However, I was very surprised because even with wanting more information, wanting to be able to get the training and make those connections, wanting to be able to do what's best for kids, loving the language, not the language, but the character components and the framework for learning, 50% of my staff said, yes, we want to move forward right now without anything more. And then another about 40% said, we want to do the training. We want the information. We think this could be a right path. You can do the math, but a tiny percent said no, which was not where we would have been last year. I think that with getting this opportunity to learn more about the program, understanding the benefits for our students, understanding the impact, not just at Scott, but for more students within our community, and understanding the opportunity for training, for knowing that it blends with Gomez and Gomez, that there are other schools out there for Gomez and Gomez, people are interested. And some staff have even come knocking down my door and saying, we want to do this right now. Let's just do it. Okay, so we are at that point where we'd like the opportunity to consider it, because there is a lot of our staff that thinks that this is the right next step and the right path forward, because it is great for kids and teachers.
So with that, Madam President, as we proceed with asking for consensus for a year of consideration, we are looking at the programs that we have that we're the only one. I mentioned a few. College Prep is another. TCALC is the only one in the region. Early college, the early college program where students start college early. Those opportunities we see as having benefited big folks, allowing two principals who are eager to learn and grow and to grow their staff to consider for a year and do research is something that administration supports. I think we would ask for the board to share if there's consensus with allowing these two principals to give a year consideration. Might be for continued research staff.
Dr. Baumbrick.
One question, would you see this as a way to maybe convince four-year college teaching degrees to incorporate some of these things in their certification process? I'm amazed they're not doing it now.
The components of critical thinking and character education are components that we find beneficial. Here's the thing, if we were to proceed forward and become the only IB school in the area, we certainly attract a large number of student teachers every year, and we partner with all of the universities. We would be the place in which to train anyone that wants to work in an IB school, or to train anyone that wants to learn in these particular areas, or to share what a ASL program looks like at the elementary level. So we certainly would be able to leverage some key training with the university partners. Dr. Baumbrick, we believe it has benefit for teacher education programs.
It could be evolutionary if it just takes off, and I suppose a marathon starts with a few steps.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
Okay, thank you. I have quite a few thoughts right now. You know what a Scott lover I am. I'm like one of the biggest cheerleaders. I've been really disappointed that more native English speakers have not been enrolling in Scott. I've been, talk about that. Do you, and we've talked about how, okay, people don't know what dual language is, and maybe that's why they're not, the native English speakers, maybe that's why they're not sending their kids to Scott. So my concern and question is, if parents hear IB, are they also not going to know what that is? Is it going to be a wasted opportunity? And another example of it didn't help with our L1 English speakers going over to Scott.
So Ms. Stewart Campbell, one of the things that I thought that this program would do if we bring it is it would help educate our parents on what a high level, top-notch educational experience our students are getting. IB brings in a different crowd than just the language crowd. It brings in the high level thinkers, the worldly minded. It's not just a language program focus, that's a component of it. Like I mentioned before, I would guess, and maybe this is a false stereotype, but I would guess that more of our native English families would be aware of what IB is than our Spanish families. I would guess that it would increase our enrollment in our and the clientele that I believe that you're speaking to. I also think that making a decision on whether we go forward isn't how we're going to fix that particular problem. I think that the way we're going to get more students that are L1 native English speakers into our school is to promote our school more, which are steps that we're already doing. It's to have a website that has information about what our program is. I'm not sure if you saw, but we updated ours, so check it out. And to be able to, one of the other pieces that we're considering is opening our enrollment period longer to be able to give people more opportunity to enroll in Scott, because sometimes people miss the deadline. And I'd like to share with you that right now we are English heavy in some of our lower grades. We have a waiting list out the wazoo. So we have English kids on our waiting list who we don't have spots for, and Spanish kids on our waiting list who we don't have spots for. I think word gets around more because our Spanish families talk about it and they say, hey, amiga, tú tienes que tener tu hijo en Scott porque ellos hacen eso, right? And they talk about it. And it's kind of a novelty for all of the Spanish services that we have for our families. I think that's why it attracts more Spanish speakers. I don't think that's why it doesn't attract English families. I think it's building awareness, having open houses. I've done multiple tours this year for English-speaking families interested in our school because they did hear about it and because they searched on Google, dual language schools in Kansas, and we popped up. And so I think it's changing some of those practices versus making a decision on IB or not. I see them as two different paths. There's two different areas.
And if I could ask, we have a parent to speak to this as well. So we'll turn it over to you, Ms. Martinez.
I didn't know this school was there either, and I was born and raised here and am also a product of 501. So I actually found out just by chance.
Miguel?
No, actually, but close. No, just actually a Coast Guard family friend that we knew that we met through just the Spanish speaking crowd that we hung out with, whose kids came to Scott. My kids were little, and where do your kids go? And there it went. I was shocked. I thought it would have been a private school. I thought it would be something that we couldn't afford as a family. And to find out that it was part of Topeka Public Schools was just, I mean, my brain explosion at the time. And that was, oh gosh, my oldest is a 4th grader at Scott now. Yeah.
That's her question.
Right. I am curious to talk to the other schools who are a dual language model and also an IB at the same time. But traveling throughout the state with the Kansas Teacher of the Year program last year, we did run into several schools who had high school IB programs. And I just felt that in the different circles that I spoke to, that it is something that a lot of people do know about. So hearkening back to what Anne said, I do think that it's really just a matter of promotion. And, you know, the fact that it goes hand in hand, I think will just enhance and lift up the programs even more.
I think we've heard enough information to decide as a board if we want to give consent. Miss Lister, can that just be either a hand for a yes or a hand for a no? Call roll. Thank you.
I don't want to keep us going too long.
We still have a 30-minute work session.
Oh, this isn't our work session?
This
will be part of it.
Yes, this is, and we've exceeded that 30-minute in this work session, but yes, this is the work session.
Okay, so one more question.
Okay, all right. We talked a lot about staff, and that is, I think, all of our biggest concern is recruiting and the recruitment and the retention of staff. And so I heard you saying that you think this will help recruit staff. I'm thinking about our teachers from Spain and how, you know, love our teachers from Spain. They have visa restrictions. So I think about training teachers. This is our job to think about these. Think about teachers that are taxpayers' money. I think about training the teachers from Spain to then go back to Spain the next year, and then a new batch comes in. Are you hopeful that this will attract talent?
So when we talk about staff retention and being able to find staff, it's very clear that treating your staff well and trying to retain them is better than recruiting. So I think I would speak more to the retention piece in that it's mandatory training to support them in being able to do their jobs in the way that they are being asked to do it. That's part of the package. Teachers love that. Also, though, I think that a program isn't going to retain staff. Good leadership is going to retain staff. People who listen and who problem solve and who lead a school in a way that values what teachers are doing, listens to their problems and walks alongside them is. And I also think on that recruitment piece is making sure that we are setting ourselves up for the most success possible in how we're recruiting and who we're recruiting and when we start doing that. And I think that those pieces are going to get the results that you're speaking to, not necessarily a program or not. But I do think that IB would not impede us in being able to retain staff.
We can't retain our teachers from Spain because the visa forces them to go back.
So what you're saying is that how would this impact our recruitment of local or states-based Spanish-speaking teachers?
Yeah, I'm saying like investing in this for Scott, but then to train teachers who go back to Spain. And then we have a new revolving door.
First off, my Spanish teachers who are online, hello, love you guys if they're listening. Again, we're speaking about two different things. I understand what you're saying about training staff, but whether we have IB or not, my goal is to keep all my staff forever. Our tagline this year, happiest place on earth, teachers and students. That's what our motto is. That's what we say all the time. We tell our staff that we are trying to make this the happiest place on earth amidst the challenges that we have in teaching in both languages, because it's not always easy. I know it's not easy, guys. And so we love the Spanish program and we think that it is great, but it isn't long-term and it doesn't keep our Spanish teachers here, and it's hard to train teachers and to get them started. I mean, you think about how long does it take a teacher to become effective at a new school? The research shows that it's 5 years before you feel successful. I don't like my teachers from Spain not feeling successful for the time that they're here. So I just think that we we need to, like I said, look at our practices in hiring and recruitment and make sure that once they get here, they want to stay. For example, we have a couple of Spaniards who are leaving, but with tears because they want to stay and they want to come back sometime. And so they're already asking, how can we get a different type of visa so we can come and make Scott our permanent home? And so that's why I bring it back to the fact that if we want to talk about retaining staff and recruiting staff, I think it still is separate from making a decision on whether we consider and get more training and information with IB. But I hear you and I am right there with you. And we are working on recruiting and retaining the best bilingual. And we also have an English speaking staff in case anyone is looking for a job. We also have, we're looking for both. And I think we're making progress in that direction.
Mr. Munoz.
Yes, I'd be interested in moving forward on this.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
Well, it's moving forward. We're calling it consideration.
The year of consideration is what this time is, in which they'll continue research and share more information with their staff and determine if they would like to proceed to the next step after that.
Not committing to any funding and like the application fee. What are we committing to fiscally?
Yeah, and
If we
can
have-
you describe the year of consideration? We can pull back up that slide if you need it, but if you
No,
don't need
not
it.
necessarily. The year of consideration is essentially a required component of the IB application process. Once again, they want to ensure that those who are venturing into this candidacy are truly committed. And so this would provide us the opportunity to now take the next steps in terms of researching the more deeper topics related to our specific schools and districts. A candidacy, we wouldn't be moving into candidacy. We would be moving into a year of consideration. With that, there's a $4,000 application, excuse me, it shouldn't be an application fee, but a fee to be able to work alongside a IB professional who could guide us through that deeper year of research.
I'm looking at it now. The candidacy fee is 9,500.
And that's not the year of consideration.
We are in the precursor year to that. The year of consideration is simply to do further research.
No financial. ties.
$4,000.
It's the application fee so that we can apply, showing that we are interested in IB and would like access to all of the materials that allows us to research. We are fortunate, and I'm not sure if Mr. Robbins, if gentleman from Singapore was on this particular personnel board. We are fortunate that, one of an IB individual that, as they're learning about Topeka, his wife, who does speak Spanish, is here with their children, and he is an IB 26-year PYP program administrator who wants to be in Topeka. And Dr. Me actually interviewed last month, and that individual, we look forward to possibly joining our team should he be approved at the next meeting. So, as we bring other individuals on who have talent and wisdom, we hope to build some internal knowledge, because even if they decide not to go forward, the training and learning of this concepts with an IB and professional development is valuable for all of their staff. And we believe that as a component. But we'll still be building internal talent for people who have knowledge in this area.
I like the last one.
Mrs. Schmidt.
I consent.
Mr. Tatum.
I consent to move forward. If I may, if I'm understanding Ms. Stewart Campbell correctly, I think what you're asking is, are we locked into any kind of agreement because we have agreed to move forward with the year of consideration? Does it obligate us to pay great sums of money and move through the rest of the process, even if we decide after the first year we don't want to do it any longer?
It does not, that we are asking for the year of consideration at the fee that was discussed to allow us access for research. So we can consider this over the course of the year and determine our next step.
That sounds reasonable to me.
Dr. Schumer.
Yeah, I consent completely and I appreciate the hard work and time that you two have put together for us.
Dr. Bonebrake.
I approve too, and their salary probably is increased as much as ours was presented. So, no, I can say.
Sue Bowley consents. We do have consensus.
Thank you.
She,
I'll just, it's, I love the idea. I'm concerned about all of our our lower performing schools. Missouri is one of the highest performing schools. Scott's amazing, just got off improvement. Also, how to recruit and retain the local staff, like across the board and all of that. So that's
Thank you. That does conclude our presentation. Thank you both, Dr. Artser and Ms. Gorsuch. You both are exceptional leaders, and investment in time and what you do is.
thank you. Thank you for thinking forward for our students. Board committee reports. We'll start down with Dr. Bonebrake.
Part of no,
Have you attended any other of your committees?
well, yes, the finance committee, which made me aware that the high density at-risk funds, which amount to $4 million, is going to sunset. Not correct. That's part of talking point. We need to talk with our legislators. Rest of it is basically legislatures trying to kill public schools.
Dr. Schumacher.
It's like a cliffhanger. We had personnel committee just before the meeting. And a great committee. We did go over the administrative handbook that I'll leave as a cliffhanger for everybody to get to look at next board meeting for approval. We also went over some compensation studies, kind of job description review for some of the different positions that hopefully that will bring forward at a later date as well, so we can make sure that all the people that are doing hard work in our district are fairly paid.
Mr. Tatum.
So the committee that I was present for was the Health Insurance Committee meeting. And that meeting was held on January 9th. And one of the overarching discussion pieces for that meeting was on the 3-year Blue Cross Blue Shield contract. It's renewal. But the district is already in the process of hammering that contract renewal out. And the goal is to increase healthful behaviors. And there's several features that are a part of the health insurance plan, Smart Shopper, Tria Health. But I talked to you a bit last meeting about the wellness committee that is forming under the umbrella of the overall committee. And the goal is not to hit the rate cap. If we can bring risk down by encouraging more health conscious behaviors, then that benefits everyone with the premium rates for district employees being as low as possible. The other committee that I was not present for, but do want to give some kudos to was the Finance Committee, and Dr. Bonebrake's already talked about the content. One of the things that I thought was important enough to mention tonight is a change in the meeting schedule. The Finance Committee had been scheduling meetings on Tuesdays. That made it very difficult for me to attend. So now they will be scheduled for a non-board meeting Thursday during the course of a month. And I understand that Mr. Munoz and Dr. Bonebrake were both on board with that. So do want to say thanks to Mr. Minke and Mr. Robbins for being flexible enough to make that change. That absolutely makes it better for my schedule. And so those are the two committees that I sit on.
Mrs. Schmidt.
Keith spoke on the Health Insurance Committee and our Policy Committee has not met, so.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
So well, I know they left, but I went to meet with Dr. Archer and Ms. Gorsuch and just like learn more to move forward. That for a direct
Committee report. Mr. Munoz.
Yep, Finance Committee, we met and as Mr. Tatum mentioned, we're going to try and change the schedule to make sure all of us can meet. Obviously, it's important for us to what's being shared. And so I think that'll work well for everybody. We are in the process of having audits done. So it's, very important. Obviously, you have monies on lots of different levels, receiving monies from local and state and federal, and in how you spend that money and making sure that they're spent in the ways that they should be. Incredibly important, an important duty for us to sort of be aware of that. And so we have BT and Co, who is currently working with the finance team to review all of that information, as well as KSDE, which is reviewing information provided by administration. So those reports we expect in a few months, and we'll get a sense of how we are doing in terms of managing the monies and the resources that we are in charge to look over. Just a point of reference though, for the past 5, Mr. Robbins, please correct me if I'm wrong, for the past 5 or 6 years, we have done a phenomenal job under your leadership and Mr. Minke of having an audits review and come up with a flawless report. Is that correct? Yeah. So it is an incredibly difficult job involving lots of individuals, lots of departments, all of our schools and all of our those who are in charge of that. So we are reviewing that process and progress, and in a few months, I assume we will have a report to see how we are doing. And one other thing is we have Mrs. Dina Merriman, who's part of our regular finance committee, and she is in charge of procurement, and she's going to be leaving. Well, one of the great things of being part of a great district is that we attract individuals who are experts in their field and that they stick with us for a number of years. And the downside of that is that when they've been here and they're ready to move to that next stage in their life, that leaves a big hole for us to sort of try to fill. So it's good and bad. We wish her luck. She'll still be with us for a couple of more months, but it does get us to begin to think about, at least for me, how do we make sure that we prepare for and be proactive to sort of make sure that 501 is able to bounce adjust, shift from that, pivot from that in the best way possible. So that's my report.
The committee that I have met with is the Sheldon Policy Committee. And of course, that's attached to your agenda and you can see their progress and the good job that they're doing over there. They are looking at helping parents understand attendance and the importance of attendance, and just missing 2 days a month can add up to I can't remember the exact amount, but like almost 2 months of reading instruction. So it's very important that they continue moving forward with helping parents understand the importance of their child being at school if it's at all possible. And that's the only committee I've had. So coming from this way, we'll start with board comments.
I just want to say that Madam President has a very nice ring to it. And so I'm so proud to sort of pass that on to you, Ms. Bowie and Madam President. And I have all the confidence in the world that we'll be in strong hands. Other than that, I think most of us many of us have participated in events in schools and as part of Martin Luther King celebrations. And so just I look forward to being involved and try to attend as many activities in our schools as possible in the next couple of weeks.
Ms. Schmidt.
Just a couple things. I handed out to everybody a sample from a One Voice school that we partner with, a chain of command that they have on their website. I know we all get lots of emails all the time. And of course, I'm a big believer in following policy, right? And so section 2000 under administration 2050 is the complaints section. And I just thought it might be an opportunity for us to create something similar for Topeka Public Schools. They have it under I think they have like a Board of Administration tab. I don't know if it'd be something we'd want to put on the main page or somewhere fairly easily accessible for parents, because I know policies are often daunting. So, but it just kind of tells them what level, depending on what the area of concern is, who they should be going to. So I just thought that was unique. Just thought I'd share it so everybody should have a copy of that. The last thing, I always like to sit and listen to everybody. And I already spoke about my quote from Martin Luther King Jr. When you do graduate classes, the last paper that you have to write is kind of a personal mission statement or a statement of purpose. And I really toiled about what to write about that because I wanted it to be meaningful, right? So it was the three things that I wanted to focus on was loving people, creating a lifetime of learning for myself, and then leaving a legacy. And so tonight it really tickled me because everybody that we listen to is doing those things. Mr. Pitts come in here and talking about how he's been working in the community forever with kids to make sure they stay on the right path. Our IB teacher principals who are sitting there wanting to create a better environment, do better by their students, by their teachers. Just all of us on the board have made a 4-year commitment, maybe longer, come and give up every other Thursday night and, often weekends and weekdays for committee meetings. Yeah, committee meetings, Martin Luther King ceremony, there's a lot of fun things that we get to do. And so I'm just very humbled by that. And I really would like to almost challenge our families to find what your passion is and work towards it. So if you are passionate about feeding the hungry, oh my gosh, Topeka Public Schools has several sites that is constantly looking for volunteers to help hand out food. You know, if you're passionate about literacy, you know, I'm sure schools would welcome open arms for parents, family members to come and read. So just find something that is meaningful to you in some way. And I think that will open up an opportunity for create a legacy of your own. So, thanks.
Bless you, Mr. Tatum. Your turn.
Thank you, Madam President. I think Dr. Anderson alluded earlier to Ms. Stewart Campbell and I's visit to Loman Hill Elementary today. Just wanted to give a shout out to them. We had a wonderful visit with the principal and talked with the teachers there and a lot of the students, and they're doing great work. I know that part of the concern is just with in keeping with the concerns of a lot of the other schools that are in central or east Topeka, just the resources and support that are needed to provide services and help kids that are often struggling, coming from struggling families, on trying to excel and to do their very best work as students. These are ongoing challenges that as a district, we really have a good idea of what's occurring. But in visiting with folks that are doing the work, boots on the ground, it really kind of reinforces the idea that we've got more work to do. So again, kudos to Loman Hill and their staff and all the good work that they're doing. And that's all I have, Madam President. No, that, I guess that was a one-time experience that you got to to you.
Mr. Schumacher.
No one threw a chair at it.
Thank you, Miss Molly. Thought I was gonna get to go before Dr. Bowenbreak, but I guess not. In our, so I want to focus on the School Board Appreciation Month. Because I do like the spotlight and I like to be appreciated, but in our proclamation, there was something about communicating the needs to of the school to the district. And I think, you know, as the legislature is getting back into session, you know, and I believe we've spoke about this either at the last meeting or the one before, it might have been the last meeting when Mr. Edwards was introduced. How do we get more people in our district energized in talking to the people that represent them at the State House and supporting them and advocating for their kids, for the people that represent their kids at the State House as well. So there's that. There's also, you know, for me, when I tell people that I know or I don't know, because I tell people that I'm an elected official because I think that's pretty fun. And I tell them on the school board, they're always like, ooh, but I feel extremely lucky to have the other people up here with me, but also the people that are out here. And I don't know that I know how good I got it with the people supporting us as a school board, but the people supporting my kids and my patients and my neighbors and the people that I truly, truly care about. So thank you.
Dr. Bowenbreak.
Madam Chairman and I attended the Kansas Association School Board meeting this past Tuesday. And I've given you all sort of a handout. I've added a couple of things. Basically, they suggested that we get to know some legislators and make these points. Mainly, the legislature is trying to eliminate public schools. One, the School Choice Act. One thing they didn't mention in their things to know to present is that the private schools really have no accountability. And if there is a child with special needs, they send them back to the public schools, and we then take care of that. And we do get some payment for that. But we have become community centers. And who is going to take care of community centers if the public education system gets destroyed? And we met with a couple of senators, and they were easygoing, easy to get along with. We attended a Senate subcommittee on education K through 12. That kind of went nowhere. And we spoke with the leaders of the House K through 12 Education Committee. And it reminds me of a Mark Twain. It's attributed to Mark Twain. You probably all heard this, but politicians and diapers are alike. They need to be changed frequently and often and for the same reason. But we need the party of choice should be wine and beer. I don't know. It's not Democrat, Republican anyway. So you've got some things to read, and there was a Missouri politician. I included an article that was published in the last week in the Kansas City paper that school choices help, not teachers' unions. And so Missouri is even going after public schools, but he makes absolutely no sense. There's no accountability with private schools. And what do they have an advantage? As small classes. I know we've been over this John Hattie thing, but if you're doing an amount of work, it's a lot easier to do that amount of work with 15 children than it is 25. I haven't seen a class of less than 22 in my roaming of schools. And it seems to me, even with the baccalaureate program, it'd be a lot easier with the smaller class. And that's what Europe does, except they also go to school year round. When are we going to decide that education of our best natural resource is something we can do to keep people here and to attract people to Kansas?
We're getting used to that. We appreciate your thoughts. So I want to thank my board for your vote of confidence. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank Mr. Munoz for taking this responsibility this last year. I feel, he's done an excellent job that I have to feel. I also want to thank the Martin Luther King Incorporated for the amount of scholarships that our students received this last week, and the awards for art and poetry and the recognition of student excellence that they have done for us this last week. We appreciate their partnership, their recognition of our district, and they had a wonderful reception to hand out those scholarships and recognize those students. I want to also thank Kansas Association of School Boards for putting on a good event for helping train us for advocacy and allowing us to get that close to our legislators and have that opportunity to talk to them about public education and the importance of it. And I thank Dr. Bonebrake for going along with me, and I thank Mr. Robbins for a great hire on our State House advocacy, our Mr. Edwards. He is highly respected. As we were at the State House, it was very easy to see that you've made a good selection for our district and our board, and we thank you for doing that. Let's get a motion to end this. Oh, and I want to thank the students and the teachers for all the letters that they have given us. They've been so fun to read, and I know we've all enjoyed them. So a motion to adjourn? Hands to adjourn? Thank you.